Hello. This is a really stupid way to start the chat, but I thought I'd have a little fun with it because I just figured out that you can do transparent PNGs in OBS, and now I can cut myself out and replace myself as the DrupalCon from DrupalCon Seattle. Welcome, everybody. I'll switch out of that so you don't have to keep looking at little me. Hello, everybody. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're having a good week. This week's been... my family, we homeschool two of our three kids, and it's starting to even grate on us because some people are like, oh, this isn't real homeschooling, what you're doing if you have kids right now and you're stuck at home, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. The point of it is, even if you homeschool kids, there's a lot of things like co-ops and trips to the library and trips to the zoo and all these things that break up your week, and not having that for a couple months has been driving me a little insane, and that's why we have this little thing coming here. But anyway, we're going to get into Drupal streaming very quickly. Hello from Nashville. DrupalCon was in Nashville a couple years ago, so I got to visit. I had been there as a kid, but I got to visit again a couple years ago, and it was a very nice place. Fun to be in that town, and it was amazing how much it was growing. So welcome from Nashville, and thank you, Candy Bar, for saying that my little circle cutout thing was fancy. I like to think so. Anyway, it's just evidence that we're starting to go a little bit insane from being cooped up inside so much. Today for the live stream, we're going to get into some more of the migration, redirect migration, and maybe work on splitting the configuration so that there's a local config and a prod config. But before that, there's a couple things I wanted to mention. First of all, how are you doing? Hopefully you're doing fine. Also, if you want to pop in chat where you're from, it's always fun to see where people are from on these live streams, just to see the global outreach that Drupal has. People from all the continents basically, except for I've never met someone who's been in Antarctica using Drupal. I'm sure that's happened though. I wanted to mention that this morning, Drees announced, Drees, who's the founder of Drupal, if you don't know who he is, he announced that he's going to match any donations to the Drupal Association for the month of April. So the Drupal Association has been key for growing the Drupal community and keeping it going, and also helping to connect everyone together, even in the midst of the controversies and things that happen in a large global community like ours. They've been a good constant help for the Drupal community. And it's interesting because Drupal is such a different open source model than many other kinds of software I've worked with in open source. And the Drupal Association is one of the key parts of it. And they're struggling this year because of COVID-19 and DrupalCon being canceled or postponed or whatever it is. And I really hope that we can get through this period, and that donations will help with that possibility. Also, continuing to host Drupal.org and pay for the great individuals who help with the tooling that we use. It would be a shame if we had to end up having a lot of things cut out in the Drupal Association. So anyway, consider doing a matching gift, taking Drees up on his offer to do a matching gift challenge. From Kenya. I think that's the first time I've seen someone on a stream from Kenya. So welcome, Sammy. And this week, so last week, if you didn't see the video, you can go back and view it. But last week's agenda has a link to the video as well. All the agendas, by the way, this page that I'm on is available in my repository. It's on github.com/gearlingguy/jeffgearling-com. And you can view all those past agendas. Last week we had the Drupal song, which was created by Jeff Robbins of Lullabot. And this week we have another special song, and I also realized I can play it straight through OBS so you can actually hear the lyrics and things. I'm not going to play the whole song, but I'll give you a short. So we're not going to go all the way through that song. If you want to see the whole song, go ahead and find that later. But the live stream the point of it is not just to watch music videos, although I could do that for fun parody videos all day. But it was a fun song. I forget exactly who made it. They're in the video. but it's worth checking out. And there's a couple other parodies too. I'm going to try to dig up some of the old ones that I remember from the old days, and we can continue entertaining ourselves with those fun songs. I think my favorite part of that video is something about throwing a cache clear into a hook init, and every page is loading megabytes or millions of queries or something. The sad thing is like that he's not making these things up. These are things people do. And as somebody who's dealt with a lot of different Drupal sites, every single thing he mentions in that song that sounds like, why would you ever do that? I've seen it before. So fun music video. Let me switch back over to the screen share. And hello also to Portugal, India, Kenya. Oh, 2 people from Kenya. Holy cow. So I've never seen someone from Kenya on my live stream, and today there's 2. So welcome to you. After last week's stream, I actually worked on a couple more things just to keep things moving along with this migration, because I really want to get to the point where we do a live, the final migration live on my domain and switch over to jeffgeerling.com. And ideally, you don't see much of a difference as an end user, but it goes from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8. And one thing that I did was I migrated the projects page. So if I go to localhost, just like I did for the blog view, I created a new projects view, and I basically transferred everything from the Drupal 7 settings in that view over to Drupal 8. And you might have noticed the slow page load speed. I have some good news to report. Well, it's mixed good news. My laptop, I have a 2016 MacBook Pro, which was the first model with the horrible butterfly keyboard mechanism that has its own problems. But this laptop, it's the non-touch bar model, because I hate the touch bar and I wish I'd never have to use it. So I bought the non-touch bar one, and this one has a special feature in its battery where after a couple of years, the battery starts to expand a little bit. And I had that happen in 2018, and the battery expanded so much that my space bar almost popped off. It was like raised up on one edge and I couldn't press it anymore. So Apple has a battery recall, so I sent it in, Apple recalled it, put in a new top case and everything, sent it back to me, and I was happy. Well, in the past couple weeks, I've noticed, man, it's really hard to press my trackpad. And I noticed my spacebar doesn't work the same on all parts. So I set the laptop down on a surface, I looked underneath, and sure enough, it's starting to expand again. So apparently it's not covered twice under the recall program, only once. So my decision was, do I pay like $700 for a new top case again and new battery and all that? Or do I get a new laptop since I've been doing the streaming and need one anyways? So I actually ordered a new MacBook Pro, the 16-inch model that has the new keyboard, supposedly a better battery, all that kind of stuff. And as a side effect, it's faster, and hopefully we'll be able to do these streams a little better. I also ordered a larger hard drive because this poor little laptop has not been able to keep up with the video work that I'm doing. I keep having to move files off to another drive and then move other stuff on. It's really annoying. So hopefully that'll be a good upgrade and the stream quality will increase. I'll also be slightly less pixely when I'm moving around in here. So anyway, on the site, I migrated the projects view, and it's right here. And I added the link in the view itself so that the link comes up when I do the site install. And I'm missing the about link up here, and I'll either automate that somehow in the migration, like I'll migrate one menu link, or I will have a manual step after we do the migration to add the about link. We'll see. But the view is very simple. It just shows a teaser listing of all of the projects on the site. And I think there's some sorting that goes on with, there's like a featured checkbox or something like that. And it also has to do with the front page block over here. If we can get back to the front page, that shows the featured projects on the home page. While that's loading, I will go over here and open up the commit for this. And there was also a small change I needed to make. For project CSS, I needed to add some CSS just to the projects view. And so I found out that I can still use, just like in Drupal 7, a hook views pre-render. And in my theme, I just call it its theme name views pre-render, and it gives me a view, and I can say if there's a view on this page that it's rendering, and the ID of the view is projects, I can attach a library. And so I added a library in my libraries.yaml file, just like I did for the blog and other things, and I can attach it in code now, in my theme code. And I think it was also in preprocessed node, I also attached the project CSS library, because if you go to a project directly, so if I go to this Ansible 101 YouTube series project, and if it ever loads, I'll take a drink of water while that's loading, because I'll probably have plenty of time. Then it has some special CSS to make sure the thumbnail renders correctly and the URL and all that. It's interesting, the thumbnail's not loading. I'm guessing that has to do with something with the local environment being a little slow. But the picture's actually there if I click on it. So it could also be file permissions, but we'll get into that later. I'm not worried about the file permissions issues right now. I'm just worried about the theming and the migration, getting the data in the right place. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. That's something I run into on almost every Drupal migration that I do. So we talked about that. There was also a block. Every time I did a migration and exported configuration, there was a new block that would export. The 7 system main theme, because of the fact that I'm switching from 7 in Drupal 7, so if I go to jeffgeerling.com, my backend theme for the admin in Drupal 7 is the 7 theme, which you can see here. In Drupal 8, localhost/admin, in Drupal 8, I'm using the Claro theme, which is a new theme that was introduced, I think, in 8.8, and it's a little bit more, I don't know, material design or easy on the eyes or whatever. But since I switched themes, I didn't want this block because that block would throw an error when I reinstalled the site if I exported the configuration. So in this issue, I figured out a way to ignore that block. If I go here, you can add a hook migrate prepare row function, and for any migration that's running, it will throw the row into this function, and then you can check on the row. Now, this is one important thing that you always have to consider with any PHP code or any code at all, and especially for Drupal migrations. Whatever code you put in here is going to run for every single migration row for every single migration. So if you do something in here that's checking on a web service or loading a bunch of things or refreshing a node or saving extra stuff for every single row, your migrations are going to go from slow to incredibly slow. And I've seen people accidentally throw something in here that's really slow, like a call to an external API, and it maybe takes 3 seconds to load it. The problem is now, instead of each row for a content migration taking 20 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds, it's taking 320 milliseconds, or 3020 milliseconds, and that makes your migration super slow. So you always have to be careful if you're doing something like this, or even hooks. A hook when you render a node. Make sure you're always flagging on the type of node that you care about before you do any extra work. So in here, I'm getting the migration ID, and then I'm saying only for upgrade D7 block am I going to do this stuff. And of course, this isn't going to make a big change anyway if I did it for every row, but still, it's better to just do what you want to do for the migration you're targeting. And so what I do is I say, if the source for a block, if the theme for that source is 7, just ignore it. Return false. That tells Migrate to ignore that particular row. So that's what I did for that. Whoops, close that out. And then I also wanted to make sure that my code was up to the PHP coding standards. So anything that's in my, where is it? Modules, custom. So my custom module here has some PHP code in it. And this is amazing how slow things are. Just opening this file took like 3 seconds. You can tell the CPU is going a little crazy. I don't think there's anything I can do quickly to OBS to help with that. But like I said, I ordered a new computer, and hopefully that will help. And this is fun. I just found a little typo here. Migrations is what it should be. So I wanted to make sure the PHP code in this module and the PHP code in my theme file right here all follows Drupal's coding standards, even for things like commented out code. And so what I did was I added the Drupal coder module, and the installation method also wants you to install the PHP code sniffer composer installer. The install instructions, which are linked here, I'm not going to go to them, but those install instructions actually wanted me to install globally. So you can install composer packages local to your project, so it's in the project's composer.json file, or you can install them globally, which makes them available anywhere. And some utilities like PHP-CS, which is PHP coding standards. Some utilities, it's nice to have it globally. That way you can just run PHP-CS and the command. But in my case, I do a lot of different PHP projects on my computer, some very old, some newer. And I like to make sure that the binaries and all the settings for it are all contained in that project. So if I install PHP-CS globally, and this project works with version 3 and the other project works with version 2, that can break globally. So I did it this way. I added them as dev dependencies because I only use them in development. I don't need them in production. And then I can test that it's working with that. And then there's a few commits in this PR here that show all the changes that were added. But basically you can run this command that I put it in the README file. And again, this is all open source, so you can go on to my GitHub repository and see all these files yourself. So I added to the README file. Part of it is under my head here, but this is the command that I'm using. But it's basically run PHP-CS and give it the Drupal standards, which are Drupal and Drupal practice, and then give it a list of extensions to search for. You can configure these things in a config file too, but I just did it this way because it was quick and easy and I didn't have to look up how to store them in a config file. But for Drupal, you need to make sure it's looking at your .module files, your .inc files, .install, .profile, .theme. Otherwise, if it's scanning a folder like my theme, it won't pick up this as a PHP file. It'll just think this is some other file and discard it. So do that and give it a couple directories to scan. So I gave it my theme and my custom module. If you have multiple custom modules, this would pick it up inside of here. It's funny, I have a custom module in the custom module directory. But if you have multiple themes, which some sites do have a use case for multiple themes, you might want to do like web/themes instead of my specific theme. Anyways, and yes, you can actually see that, so that's good. I didn't just delete something behind my head that you couldn't see. So anyway, I have that running on CI. And so now, whenever I commit code or push it up to my project, I have two checks in here. I have PHP-CS, which is checking for coding standards, and I have a site install operation that runs. And they run in parallel, so it's nice. It's still the same speed as before with my CI process, so I'm still used to it. It only takes like less than a minute. But now I have the coding standards checked, and I test that Drupal can install successfully. So the more tests like this that I add, the better off I am, because my code is always going to be up to Drupal standards. The site is always going to be installable, which is a good thing to have for someone who's reinstalling the site at least once a week. Sometimes for migrations, I reinstall the site many times a day. But anyway, so now I have PHP code sniffer and CS installed on the project, and that's a nice thing. And if you want to do it yourself, I actually posted a blog post about that as well, which is linked in this issue. So today, I wanted to get into redirect migration. I've said this many times in the past, one of the things that I care a lot about on the internet, and I hope everybody cares about, is preventing link rot, which is there are links from your site or from elsewhere that go to pages on your site. And if you change the URL of a page and you don't have the old URL redirect to the new URL, then any link that goes to it will turn into a rotten link, and it'll go to a 404 page or redirect your homepage or whatever it is. And that's not great for the web because it's also not great for SEO purposes, because you want all that traffic to get to a page on your site that's still valuable for users. So I always make sure that when I change a URL on a page, the Drupal redirect module has a setting to add a redirect from the old URL to the new one automatically. I also have an old site. My site's been around since 2004 in one form or another. It's gone through many changes, and every time I do a change from one system to another, like when I did the static thingamablog to Drupal, and it was Drupal 6, I made sure that I added manually at that point redirects from all the old .html pages to the new paths in Drupal. And then from there, I also migrated some content from midwesternmac.com, which was it still is my LLC that I run services through. I had a bunch of content on that site that I migrated into jeffgeerling.com, but I also made sure that Midwestern Mac redirected all of its URLs over to jeffgeerling.com so that people that linked to that content on Midwestern Mac still come to my site on the right page with the right article. And additionally, when I did that, I also ended up, after that migration was complete, moving the URL structure to a new blog. It's like the date is in the URL instead of not having the date in the URL. So when I did that, I made sure all those were migrated. So I have, if I go to jeffgeerling.com and show you, there's probably a lot. There's probably a lot of redirects. Where are they? Configuration, URL redirects. I don't know if it gives a listing of how many there are, but you can see there's many pages. Let's see how many pages there are. This is probably, 50 a page or something. If I go to last. There's only 4 pages. I thought I had more. I'm guessing I have more on the midwesternmac.com. But it's interesting. There's even some like here. I have a URL iPhone mics that goes to Node 88, and I'm guessing that this redirects to somewhere else too. Let me even try that. Yeah, so that goes to Node 88, which Node 88 has a path that has a different alias. Because it was apparently an article back when I used to have different sections besides the blog on my site, but I realized it doesn't really help that much with discoverability. Things like this these links at the bottom. There's a lot of comments on this post. Things like these links on the bottom were better able to help people find content that they wanted to find rather than have a giant article listing separate from my blog and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, that's all old content architecture stuff we could get into some other day. But the point is I want to make sure that all these redirects are migrated. So I don't think I have the redirect module installed. I don't. So first thing I need to do is get that Drupal.org redirect. And I always go to Drupal.org to grab the composer install command or the composer require command. I could do it other ways, but this way is my favorite. So I want the 8.x, 1.5 is the latest stable release. So I'm going to click on that release and then copy this out because this is what I want to do since I'm using Composer on my site. So I'm going to do that. Composer can do its thing. It might error out from running out of memory because that seems to happen all the time. Interesting other news for anyone that follows PHP. Okay, that's fine. I don't care. I have, if you're wondering what those pop-ups are, I have this thing called Little Snitch running. And Little Snitch will show where all the network is going and coming from on my computer. And it monitors terminal processes and things like that for any external activity. It's helpful for privacy purposes and to make sure that you don't have apps that are sending off data to places you don't want it to go. It's also easy to see, that there's a lot of things about Zoom and privacy lately. If you run Zoom with Little Snitch enabled, you can see all the different requests that Zoom is making in the background, and sometimes it can be quite surprising. Also, I forgot to mention thank you app for AJ from India. Thanks for all the wonderful little emoji. Glad you like the videos. So Composer's running, but Composer 2, I believe, was just released this week, maybe? I forget when exactly. Composer 2, or maybe it's about to be released. I don't remember the date timeline for that, but I know Composer 2 is coming. So latest is still 1.10. But when is 2 coming out? because Composer 2 has a few nice features. So there's an article from here about it. Dev is 2.x. I don't see any release history thing, but anyway, Composer 2 will have a few nice changes. The biggest one, I think, is with Composer 1, packages are always downloaded one after the other. And if you have a project like Drupal with maybe 100 or 200 or 300 packages it has to download, it takes a long time to download one, then download the next, download the next. So there was a package from Hirak, or Hirak, called Prestissimo, and that would allow you to download things in parallel. That was kind of just pulled into Composer Core for version 2, and that's one of the biggest new features is when you run Composer install or Composer require, if it's downloading stuff, it can download in parallel. So it's can be up to 2 times faster for some operations, maybe more for really big projects like a Drupal-based project with 100 different modules and theme dependencies. Anyway, so Composer 2 is coming soon, I guess. I thought it was released, but it has not been released yet. But it looks like there's some dev and beta releases out. Yeah, so still 1.10 releases. This is funny. They're still fixing bugs on PHP 5.6. PHP 5.6 has been out of support for quite a while. And my computer's been out of commission for quite a while here. I don't know what Composer's doing, but I'm guessing at the end of this it's just going to error out and make me start over, but we'll see. Anything fun happening in your Drupal world? It's interesting. So I'm working on this Drupal, the Drupal local dev environment survey, and it's interesting to see year to year the different tools that get more or less popular. So it'd be interesting to see if you want to put in your chat like what local environment tool do you use. Right now I'm using Docker Compose, and I have a custom Docker setup. But do you use Lando? Do you use Doxel? Do you use DDev, Drupal VM? Do you use MAMP or XAMPP or something like that? Pop that into the comments, because it'd be interesting to see what the people on the live stream are using. Or if you don't do any Drupal and you're just interested in Drupal, that'd be interesting to know too. But the dev survey, we do it every year for DrupalCon, and since DrupalCon's not happening, DrupalCon North America, we have kind of, we haven't closed it yet, but we probably could close it now. We have around 600 responses. And then we take all the data together and then we present on it at DrupalCon. So it sounds like we might have an opportunity to present virtually at Drupal Delphia or Drupal Philadelphia or whatever that thing is called. So that'd be kind of fun. Chris Urban and I worked together at Acquia. That's today's shirt is the Acquia shirt, one of many that I have. And we started doing it a few years ago and are planning on continuing it as long as we can. So the results from that, we'll post them after that conference is over. Looks like Composer's finally getting its act together. Still taking a little time. And OBS is practically killing my computer. It's funny, the OBS CPU indicator is saying 29%, but there's a message over on the side that says that encoding overloaded with an exclamation point. Consider turning down video settings. Yeah, that's what Composer will do for you. I wonder, there's nothing else I have running right now that I could quit, but it looks like it installed. So now I'm going to say, I'm going to install. Looks like a couple people are posting Doxel, XAMPP on Windows. Yeah, the funny thing is, so a lot of people talk about how they recommend using all these different tools. It's a little bit faster sometimes, and if you know what you're doing, at least, it can be simpler to use something like MAMP or XAMPP, or just install MySQL and Apache somewhere and run it. I did that for years and years. The only real reason I started switching to use Drupal VM, and then sometimes I now use Docker or other things, is when I want to be able to share my content or share my project with someone else and have them be able to bring it up as quickly too. That's the time when it's nice to have a central tool that you can all kind of know how to use it, and you know, because when you use something custom on your computer, you spend a lot of time basically customizing it for yourself, and then it's hard for someone else to get that replicated on their computer. So I'm going to install the redirect module. PM enable redirect. I'm going to use Drush because obviously the web UI is incredibly slow right now. And I wonder, I'm going to try this. I hope that the stream does not die on me. I'm actually going to switch it to 10 frames per second, which might be able to help, but it might also kill the stream. We'll see. Video. Oh. Turn off any outputs to change video settings. So I can't do that, I don't believe, unfortunately. So we're going to live with this extreme slowness right now. And it looks like there's nothing else I can change that I can tell here in OBS to make it not be so sad. But I believe I have an extra MySQL instance running. Drupal 7 db docker compose -v. I think I have this other db instance running, and I'm going to kill that. It's not going to help much, but every little bit counts right now. Okay, so that's down. It probably didn't do anything, but whatever. It's worth a try. The little warning on the left of OBS went away, so that's good. But we are just waiting for the redirect module to enable itself. And while it's doing that, I'm going to look up in redirect how to do the migration, because I don't believe that it's a automatic thing. I think you have to do something manual. Let's see, migrate. Is there anything on this page? No. There's no documentation guide. So let's look up migrate. And let's see what issues there are. Somebody might have had some information. This has given me some search results for Drupal 7, so I'm going to switch this to version 8.x. And I'm going to see if there's anything in here. Migrate D7 redirects to Drupal 8. And there's also this one, redirects from Drupal 7 to 8. This one is marked duplicate, so it probably won't have a lot of good information. So there's a few other people commenting too on the local environments. So Doxel, Zamp, Lando, sometimes Project X, Lagoon, Laragon. Laragon, I guess, is a Laravel focused thing, but probably most of these projects would work with Drupal. There's Homestead as well. And stuff about Docker on Ubuntu. The main reason, again, why I use Docker nowadays more is just because I'm going to share the environments with other people, or if I'm going to deploy it using Docker, it's easier to have the Docker environment set up that way. But I have some skin in the game with Drupal VM, but I only recommend Drupal VM for people that really need. It's kind of like an 18-wheeler truck. Like if you need it, that's great, but it's not going to be a good daily driver. It's not going to be something that fits in your garage. And so you really need to find out the needs of your project and then figure out what kind of environment you want to use. Let's see. So that module is still enabling, but here, does it have any import-export capabilities? This was closed as a duplicate. Source plugin migrate. So let's look in here at the module that was downloaded. So here's redirect, source, plugin, migrate. So it has a source of D7. So the migrate source is D7 path redirect. So the thing is, I've actually never created a migration in Drupal 8 using the new, whatever the new method is of creating migrations, and I believe there's a UI for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if that UI, migrate UI Drupal 8, I don't know where it is in the admin, or if I have to enable a module for it or something. Do I have the Migrate UI module installed? No, I don't have Migrate UI. It says it doesn't work with Drupal 8.1. It's not supported and abandoned. Is there a UI in another issue? I thought there was a Migrate UI somewhere in Drupal. And of course, this site is being incredibly slow. It finally enabled the redirect module, so that's good. Let's see. App is saying, and app is, I believe, AJ. It would be great if an expert could start a help forum like PHP has in PHP Freaks. It would be great for help novices like me, for Ansible too. There actually are a few places. So, you know, for Drupal in particular, there's the Drupal.org website, issues on modules and things. There's also Drupal answers. So these are some places that I often go when I'm looking for answers. I know for this migration project, I've already been on Drupal answers probably 1,000 times for different questions I've asked. And I have a lot of, whenever I encounter a question that I have an answer to, I often put the answer in so that other people can benefit in the future. And for Ansible, there's not a special Stack Exchange, but for Ansible, there is a, you can ask questions on Stack Exchange itself for Ansible. And there's also an IRC channel. I use LimeChat to do my IRC, but there's Ansible Community, Ansible Devel, there's mailing lists. There's some places where you can ask those kind of questions. And often there's somebody there that will be able to help you. So let's see, rewrite to use migrations as plugins. I don't want that. This is still loading this page, which is not a great sign for speed here. But it looks like the two ways that I could do the migration would be, oops, let's get back here, would be to either create the YAML manually and then import configuration, or I guess, somehow I switched windows and now everything's gone on my other monitor. Or I could use the UI, which I'm trying to figure out where that is. I'm going to see if I can do PM list. I think that lists all the available modules because it might be in one of these other Migrate tools. Migrate tools, does it have a page? Admin structure migrate. Yeah, so it looks like Migrate tools might have what I'm looking for. I'm going to do this. Just go directly there. And my poor computer is dying. I cannot wait to get that new one. Probably doesn't help the battery that I have it plugged in and getting super hot. Lithium-ion batteries don't often like that. Francisco mentions Lando, Laravel Valet, and Acquia Dev Desktop. That's another one that I always forget about it because I've never used it much, but a lot of people enjoy Dev Desktop just because it's simple like MAMP or XAMPP, but it's focused on Drupal. And up until recently, I think it was supported by Acquia as well. I don't know if it still is or not. I know there was a talk of doing a big rewrite on it, but that didn't happen. I have Mail open. That probably doesn't help things. And it's also not responding. That might help things a little bit. We'll see. Or not. Yeah. It's annoyingly sad too. Like for people that have for people that do streaming, I'm finding whenever I look up these questions and things, they all have these gaming rigs that have liquid cooled video cards and things, and they can run a game at 4K and stream live and have 2 video sources. I'm over here with my old MacBook, and I have my little choppy thumbnail in the bottom corner, and it keeps giving me warnings on YouTube that I am not sending enough data. But let's see, migration group import from Drupal 7. This JavaScript hasn't loaded yet. Therefore, I can't click this drop button to see what other options I have here. But I don't want to add a migration group, but is there a way to add a migration? Viewing a migration source, run a migration, edit form, delete a migration, execute. I don't see a way to add in there. Oh, here we go. So I wonder if it's edit. If I edit this migration group, I wonder what things I could change if this ever loads. if things don't get too much better, we might have a slightly early ending to the day's live stream, just to let my computer have a little break before the battery explodes or something. Does anyone else have a non-touch bar MacBook Pro and has had the same issue? That would be interesting to see if other people have had it happen 2 times. So this migration group doesn't have settings for the migrations that are part of it. I thought there was a UI though. If anyone in the comments knows about this, or in the chat knows if there's a migration UI that maybe I'm just missing here. This is still trying to list the modules down here. It's sad. It's trying so hard. And if I just stop the live stream, it'll work, but then you can't see it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Migrate Tools, Migrate Plus, Migrate Example, but there's no UI for it. I thought for sure there was a UI that was supported for migrations. Drupal 8 migration UI. It's not that, but I mean, there are some things here, some documents that talk about it. Migrate UI, Drupal UI overview, Migrate UI, Migrate Drupal UI. Let's see. So there's a Migrate Source UI. The problem is that this module that seems to be the one that it's talking about is not, it's just for like running migrations, and it's only here. Anyway, I'm going to look up really quick how to create a Drupal 7 to 8 redirect migration. I'm guessing that the easiest way might just be to add a YAML file. Migrating path A. This is a little bit of a newer article here. There's a part 1 and part 2. That doesn't look all that promising though. Let's see. Well, that's path aliases. Drupal 8 redirects. I'll look at this one too. This is most of what I end up doing in my Drupal work, is finding blog posts that have some documentation about how to do something. So it has this kind of stuff. Path auto and path redirect, or in redirect. So I forgot I don't have path auto installed, but I'll need to do that too. Let's see. So you want to do this. Admin structure. So you can add a new migration group for the redirects, and maybe I'll just do that. And I have to do that. But I could add the migration to the existing import from Drupal 7 migration group, so I don't have to create another one. Let's see, no web UI. Oh, so there isn't a web UI. I thought there was. I thought that was one of the things that happened in Drupal 8, but there I am wrong. Oh well. So let's see, there's a template for migrations, and let's see if this is true. So there's often a migration template in the module. So if I go to the redirect module and I look in here, migrations, D7 path redirect. Okay, so there is a thing here. So this is a template. Look in the path modules direction. So I already have the paths redirected. I need to migrate the redirects. Okay. Update these to match our custom migrations. So ID. So what I could do, I guess, is reveal this in the Finder. Wow, that's even slow. Come on, you can do it. My computer's just trying to open a Finder window and it's dying. This doesn't bode well for my Ansible live stream tomorrow. I think for that one I'm going to have to run some VMs in the cloud instead of on my computer, since this little guy just can't cope with the computer like that. I'm also going to move my window down here. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. The windows that I have open on my other screen, I try to limit how many windows are open there, just in case like a computer has trouble rendering. So this is that D7 path redirect. I'm going to copy this file and go back. Oh, come on. Copying the file now takes forever. Oh, it's excruciating. I'm sure it looks like on the live stream I'm very choppy too, so I mean, it's not like you want to look at me anyway all the time, but me being choppy is probably worse than me being really smooth. So I'm going to go to the site and go to config and paste that file in there. Whoops. Come on. Config sync. Paste this in here, and I'm just guessing right now, but if it works this way, then it works this way. If it doesn't, then we'll have to figure something else. I'm amazed that copying a 500 byte file or 500 kilobyte file is taking many seconds. What is, it can't just be, like the stream can't take up that much, can it? Oh, this is just sad. Oh, come on. I'm just trying to see what, make sure it's the stream using all the resources and not some other app running in the background that's killing my computer. But I can't even open up my little CPU monitor menu bar thing. And now the computer is, oh, there it is. Oh, and now it's gone. Come on, come back. You can do it. I'm gonna have to use my clicks wisely. This reminds me of, I remember when I was doing video work on, I think it was Mac OS 9. It was Avid something or another. And the basically video was, it still is, you know, if you're doing 4K or 8K video, it uses, this keeps popping up and going away. It keeps using as much power as your computer has, basically. And on that computer, what would happen is when I would do a render, it would be like this, where you can't even touch anything because it takes like a minute for something to happen. So what I would do is I would like plan out the clicks, and I would click, and then I would know where something is, so I'd click, and then I would go do something. And then a few minutes later, I'd come back, and the clicks would have happened, and I would get on to my next thing. The better answer to that is if you have enough money, you'd have another computer to do the rendering. But I operate on a little bit more of a shoestring budget, and that brings up a good point. To finance the new computer, I've used some of the money that I've gotten from YouTube, from GitHub sponsors, and from Patreon and things. So if you enjoy these things and want to see more content and not me sitting here talking while my computer's killing itself, please consider. I don't know if I have the links below in the description, but if I don't, I can put them there after the fact. But I am on GitHub sponsors and on Patreon, and you can support me there. There's also plenty of other people that it would be great to support, helping out people who are not able to get food right now by donating to a local food bank, that kind of thing too. But if you do have the means, it'd be greatly appreciated, especially by my poor computer. So it looks like sitting here doing nothing has helped a little bit. However, OBS it's never used that much before, so OBS must be doing something. I must have messed up a setting somewhere. The CPU is 80 degrees, and that is Celsius, which is a lot hotter than Fahrenheit. Well, Celsius isn't hotter than Fahrenheit. I know some person that is all about units is going to slap me for saying that, but 80 degrees Celsius is a lot hotter than 80 degrees Fahrenheit is what I meant to say. And I can hear the fan going like crazy. All right, so I pasted that in. It should be in there. And here it is. So this I need to change to migrate something. What is it? It would be, so that's a migration group. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and pop it into here. Upgrade. I'm going to do upgrade. Upgrade path redirect, maybe. .migrate. So again, I'm just totally guessing on how to do this. And that's sometimes the way I do it. I don't need to have .migrate.yaml, I guess. And then I'm also going to search. Actually, I'll change this to D7 path redirect. And oh, come on. Renaming the file took forever. All right, so I'm going to go out of here, and out of here. Go to my config and check in here. So I have, where did that go? Upgrade D7, what is it? Path redirect. Okay, so this is my new one. I'm going to check on here. So there's I can't talk. UUIDs for all these existing migrations. I don't know if I'm going to need that or not, but the ID has to match what's on the file system here. So I'm going to change this to upgrade D7 path redirect, and the tags are fine. Content, the sources, that looks fine. And then here it's saying the label and migration tags. Label is path redirect, that's fine. There's a lang code in there, but this one doesn't have a lang code in the template, so I'm not going to add it for now. You can do drush CIM. So I'm going to try this. This might kill the computer, and this might be the end of the stream, but I popped it in here, and I believe that this should be picked up. I don't think that there's anything. If I go to the migration group here, Migrate Plus, what is it? I don't see the migration group. I don't think that there's a configuration that lists the migrations. I think it's just if the configuration's in here, Drupal will pick it up. So I'm going to do an import, drush CIM, and we'll see if it picks that up or not. And it'll probably happen in about 15 minutes. So if there's anything you want to talk about during this live stream for the next few minutes, you can definitely do that. But maybe I could entertain you by talking to myself, my little mini-me down here in the corner. He's not very talkative though, so that probably won't be too entertaining. But let me get back to the screen share. And now doing that, I just got the encoding overloaded message again. So maybe don't do that. Maybe that's what's overloading things. It gets freaked out when I start talking to myself as the giant Drupal. But we'll see if this works. If it doesn't, then I'll probably end up closing out the live stream, and we'll figure out what to do later. So it does look like it picked this up. See, it got it and created it. So that's good. Yes, we'll do that. Oh, because I added the redirect module, it didn't get those pieces. But it looks like that is going to pick it up, and what I can do now, this is kind of nice. It's kind of, I don't know, it's nice and it's not nice. In Drupal 7, the standard way to add redirects was in code, and you'd add a class and inherit and all that. In Drupal 8, it looks like you're dealing with YAML files, and this just doesn't look all that well structured. I mean, you can format it better, so you can do this kind of thing and make it a little nicer that way. But when you re-export it, it will rewrite it this way, and it will be all run together and stuff. So I don't know. I could go one way or the other. The YAML's nicer to edit than PHP, especially if you're not somebody who is familiar with all of Drupal 8's partially object-oriented programming. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, after the stream is over, work on exporting the config so I get these things out, so I don't delete them and screw up the configuration. Then I'm going to re-import and have this in. And the reason that some of these are saying that there's an update is because of the UUIDs. Well, core extension is because I installed the redirect module. But these have updated UUIDs like this. Every time you reinstall the site, it has a new I can't speak, UUID. I mean, it's hard to say that word. But anyway, I'll export everything. These are updated just because the UUIDs are different. And then I'll import this and see how it goes. And maybe next stream with the new computer, fingers crossed it'll come by then, with all the shipping and COVID-19 stuff. But with the new computer, maybe we can run that and see how it works, and see if there's anything else that I need to do, or if it just works like magic, like it should. A lot of these things should work like magic, but sometimes when I run them, they don't. Yeah, so I'm not going to import that right now. Instead, I'm gonna close out the live stream, and I made another. So in addition to that wonderful cutout that I had earlier, with me inside of here talking to myself, I also made this wonderful little list of social links down here at the bottom. You can see I'm really bad at this. Oh, I can't work in a mirror in my hands. There we go. So I'm on, oh man. Anyway, I'm on GitHub over here. That's the first one you see. I'm on Patreon, which is, I can't even look at it. Anyway, Patreon is in the middle. Twitter's on the right side. You can find me at Gearling Guy. That's kind of the main point of it. But now that I know that I can do transparent PNGs, overlaying myself on OBS, you should be prepared for the most crazy and ridiculous things on these streams. But with a newer computer, hopefully also be able to do them without having the migrations blow up in my face from slowness. And one more question somebody had, Mr. Cook. I don't know if that's Tim Cook. If you are, you can send me a Mac Pro. That would be even better. But you're using a CPU monitor. Where did you get that? I believe it's from the App Store. I don't remember what this monitor is called. But I could, if you ask me that, iStat menus. iStat menus is the thing that I'm using here. And it actually uses a little bit more CPU than the old CPU monitor I used to do, but it has a lot of good information. But anyway, if you ask any questions in the comments below, I will also get to them either today or next week. And I'll mention them in the next week's episode. But thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing if you like this content. As I said, next week I'll have a new computer, well, hopefully, pending any shipment delays. And we'll hopefully be able to get these things done a lot quicker, and I won't have to sit here filling in dead space with silly gimmicks and PNG cutouts. But again, if you have the means, please consider donating to any worthy causes in your area, especially for people who are being furloughed or laid off, and for people who are affected by COVID-19. Personally, I finally had somebody who's not a very close relative, but somebody who's close enough that I know them pretty well, and they have COVID-19, and it's an older person. So it's, I've been praying for that person. Hopefully that person will recover quickly. So far, no major problems, but anyone who's in the age range of concern, it's a little concerning to hear that they have it. So please reach out to other people who you work with. If you're working from home and your team is normally together in an office, make sure nobody feels lonely or sad or anything. Reach out to them, say hi, figure out ways to hang out together. Over this weekend, my family had a couple different Zoom get-togethers. We actually had a game. All the cousins got together and played Zoom Guess Who. So that was fun and entertaining for everybody, especially me, who joined from the basement in my office. And a couple of the kids were upstairs. One of the kids was with me somewhere in my sister's house, and there were some other people elsewhere. So it was a fun thing, and figure out ways to get through this. And hopefully at some point I will get to shake your hand or bump your elbow, or whatever will be the socially responsible way to greet people. But thank you for watching. And I am going to use my fancy graphic. Actually, I just realized if I switch to this, it says it's going to start momentarily, but it's not actually. So I'm just going to switch to this, and I'm going to smile at myself until the stream ends, because I never know when the stream is actually going to end. If you have an Ansible issue, is there any way you can ask for help? Me speaking as DrupalCon right now. You can always ask for help on Twitter and places, but like I said, there's a lot of places you can ask for Ansible help. And in the Ansible 101 live stream series, which I'm doing concurrently with this, you can also ask on comments there, or during the live streams even. And speaking of it, tomorrow at 10 a.m., join us again, and I'll be there. And I'm going to click the end stream button, and I will look at myself until the stream is over. Oh, I didn't actually click the end button. So now I'm looking really stupid, looking at myself and not looking at myself.